Well, good afternoon from Massachusetts, and welcome to the Get to Know Boston College webinar series hosted by the Office of Undergraduate Admission. My name is David Weber. I'm an Associate Director in the Admission Office. I'm joined by my admission colleague, Pete Caruso, also an Associate Director.
Hello, everybody.
Pete will be moderating the Q&A later in this session. And in just a moment, we'll introduce you to our guest from the Office of First Year Experience, Ms. Ali Bane Hammond. This is a classic mid-April weekend in Massachusetts, where this morning we woke up to a blanket of snow on the ground, and tomorrow it'll be 60, sunny, and we're gonna be mowing the lawn tomorrow. So friends, our four seasons help make Boston a magical place. There really is nowhere else quite like it. But aside from the weather, a few additional notes before we get started. I know that your final semester has played out in ways that no one could ever fathom. And thinking about the opportunities, the tradition, the pageantry that comes along with the completion of your senior year makes this otherwise exciting time somewhat bittersweet. We hear you, we are with you, and we wish you and your family safety and good health during these difficult times. We will also keep you updated on any university decision regarding COVID-19 along the way. The webinar is being recorded and will be available via the playlist that exists in your admitted student portal. So we'll update it later next week. You can rewatch this webinar if you'd like, or share it with those who are unable to tune in with you this afternoon. We have approximately 900, or actually over 1,000 at this point, students and families from around the world who have tuned in for this webinar. And I want to say that reading each and every one of your applications is an honor. And no matter where you are and where you're watching from, on behalf of the global Boston College family, congratulations on your admission to Boston College. For those who have already decided to attend Boston College, we can't wait to meet you. And for those who are in the decision-making process, you can take your time. We have a couple more weeks where we invite you to use all of the virtual programming that we've uploaded into your admitted student portal. We will continue to do so as well. We also invite you to reach out and communicate with your admission counselor. And you can find that contact information in your admitted student portal as well. So please reach out to us. We'll also continue to host live programming almost every day for the next 2 weeks. So stay tuned and keep engaging with us. Several questions have already been submitted for this session. We're going to do our very best to get to as many as we can. Also, at the bottom of your screen, you should see a questions button, and you are able to submit questions through that button. We encourage you to do so throughout the presentation. And again, in our 45 minutes together this afternoon, we'll try to get to as many questions as we possibly can. Your 4 years at Boston College will be made up of peers, faculty, administrators that will serve as some of the most interesting conversation partners that you will ever encounter. And this afternoon, I have the pleasure of introducing you to one of those conversation partners. From the Office of First Year Experience, Ms. Ali Bane Hammond. Ali serves as Director of First Year Experience and Orientation. And Ali's a graduate of Boston College, holds a master's from Harvard, is currently doing PhD work in developmental psychology here at BC. And as I mentioned, Ali's Director of First Year Experience, which is an office that exists and assists our first year students as they transition into the intellectual, social, and cultural communities of Boston College. Ali leads several 48 hours retreats, teaches in our cornerstone elective for first year students called Courage to Know, and is an integral part and an architect of the orientation program that all of you will go through if you enroll at Boston College. Ali's a mentor to countless Boston College students, as well as a great friend to the admission office, and I can't wait for you to meet her. So please join me in welcoming Ms. Ali Bane Hammond. Ali.
Thank you, David, and good afternoon, everyone. It is so great to be here with you all. I want to add my voice to what I hope has felt like a very loud choir over the past few weeks, welcoming you to Boston College and congratulating you on your acceptance to the university. I know that it is a result of a tremendous amount of time and energy and dedication. So it's truly impressive. So congratulations. As David mentioned, I work in first year experience, and I'm going to tell you all about what our office is and how we serve BC students throughout the school year and in the summertime. But another thing I can tell you about myself is that I'm local to Massachusetts. I grew up on the North Shore. I grew up in a town called Manchester, Massachusetts, and now I live in Stoneham, Massachusetts with my husband and 8-month-old son. But I think the most relevant thing that I can tell you about myself on a day like today is that I know a little bit about what it's like to be in your shoes. Because many years ago, I also applied to BC. And when I got in, I was excited and decided. I knew I wanted to come. It was my first choice. And that's why it was so surprising that as my senior year of high school, as the spring ticked on and as April and May rolled by, I started to sense some questions kind of entering my consciousness. And they kind of caused me to second guess myself and my pretty firm decision to go to BC. My parents had both gone to BC, and though they did not kind of whisper in my ear at all during the college search process, they really held back. I started to wonder, am I just choosing BC because it's familiar? And as I mentioned, I'm from Massachusetts, and I started to become unsure about whether I wanted to go to a school so close to home. And finally, despite being raised Catholic, I had never attended a religiously affiliated institution, and I had questions about what it meant to go to a Jesuit Catholic institution. So I tell you all of this because I want you to know from where I sit, it's really good to have questions. It's okay to have questions, and in fact, it's good. You're all in a different place in this discernment process. Some of you we know are decided. You're going to come to BC, and we can't wait to see you in late August. And others are still weighing your options, and you're considering what this place has to offer. And either way, it's great because my colleagues in the Office of Undergraduate Admission have put together this whole month for you to kind of figure out what this place has to offer you. And I hope our time together today will just be a small piece of that puzzle and help to give you a fuller picture of what I think makes BC such a special and unique place. Now, students, I would love to hear a little bit more from you specifically. You got here because you have an abundance of intellectual and personal qualities that made you stand out in the admission process, and because you were probably really busy in high school, right? You did a lot. So I have a question for the admitted Eagles here with us today. I want you to think about one thing you did in high school that you really loved. So one thing, an involvement, an activity, a club that was a positive part of your high school experience. And I would actually invite you to enter that into the Q&A field. And Pete is going to try to read aloud a few submissions that we get in the next minute or so.
Absolutely. So don't be shy, folks. Let me know. Let's see. So they're coming in. So being editor of the yearbook, Model UN, tennis and theater, community service twice, no surprise there, Model UN ice hockey and student government, dance, 3 exclamation points, musical theater again, and wow, a lot of theater, and ultimate frisbee. So there's just a few for you. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I wish we could just sit here and have kind of hear them all, because I know there's so much that you did in your high school careers that you're passionate about. I feel right at home here because I was a theater major and I was a dancer throughout my high school and college years. So I feel at home in this circle of artists we have virtually here. But thank you for your submissions. And even if you were just thinking about something you did in high school that you really liked and were really dedicated to. Now, why did I ask you to do that, right? I asked you to think about one thing and one thing only. And I know that may have pained some of you, because some of you may have been sitting there thinking, well, you know, I wanted to say that I played tennis and I did Model UN. I was editor of the yearbook and I was on the debate team, and I was in National Honor Society, and I worked after school, right? You guys knew how to do high school well, and you did. You did it really well if you got accepted to a place like Boston College. And what if I told you there was a name for students like you, students who, maybe for lack of a better phrase, left high school? Well, there is. And it was coined by New York Times columnist David Brooks, and it's called Organization Kids. A number of years ago, David Brooks conducted a bunch of qualitative interviews with high school students who had gotten admitted into our country's most selective colleges. So we're talking like the top 30 to 40 schools. And Brooks was looking to understand what these students who had fared so well in the most competitive of admission processes all had in common. So like what their special sauce was, right? And what he found was that all of these students were really good at mastering high school as an organization. They jumped through hoops and checked off boxes to ensure that they had success in all arenas of high school, right? So whether that was academically, socially, with co-curriculars. And he found that for organization kids, this success was often driven by external influences, by a sense really of what they ought to do to be successful, perhaps informed by family, friends, or even admission processes themselves. And what interests me as someone who works in the college context is that Brooks also found that organization kids often bring that habit to college with them, right? They try to crack the code of college by looking around and determining what successful college students do at a particular place, and then they go and do those things, right? They do all of those things. So on any given day, a college schedule for an organization kid at a school like, say, BC might look something like this. Crew practice at dawn, final edits on a paper, classes in the morning, resident advisor duty, lunch, attend office hours, classes in the afternoon, service in downtown Boston, chemistry lab, dinner, resume review at the Career Center, a cappella practice, a quick workout at the MCRC, study group in the Chevrolet Study Lounge, a few hours of sleep only to wake up and do it all again, right? I'm tired just reading that. So you can imagine just doing that. So why am I telling you all of this? Well, if you take this organization kid approach to your college experience, it's quite possible you could end up with many days that look a lot like this, not because these experiences are a reflection of who you are and how you actually want to spend your time, but because you might be so accustomed to checking off the boxes and so good at jumping through the hoops. And I think a lot of BC freshmen come to college with the mistaken impression that doing more means you're doing college right. And I don't think that's true. So in the Jesuit tradition, there is a word and concept called magis. And if any of you have taken Latin, you might recognize this word. It means more. This idea of the magis, of more, is a central idea in Jesuit circles and in Jesuit education. And at BC, we use magis not as a call to do more, like you saw on that last slide, but as a call to be more, to be better. How can you be more authentic? How can you be more loving? How can you be more of a man or a woman for others? And these sorts of questions really represent our philosophy of student formation here at Boston College. And if you've been doing your research on BC, you might have come across this phrase before, right? Student formation. So what is student formation? Well, it's essentially a philosophy of student development. And in other words, it's how the college experience is designed to shape you into more, there's that word again, more of who you are, to allow you to grow and flourish in ways that feel good and right to you. And so while every college forms its students, this process of student formation looks really different at different institutions. And I actually know that. I've worked at like 4 different Boston area campuses. So you can chat me offline if you want to know why we're the best. But when it comes to student formation, some colleges do it implicitly and some are really explicit about their goal. At BC, student formation is very explicit, a very explicit and intentional part of your educational experience. So BC conceptualizes student formation as having these three interconnected dimensions: an intellectual, social, and spiritual dimension. So you can see with the triangles right there. And our hope is that as you go through your time at BC, that these three dimensions begin to feel more integrated so that you can experience your own life holistically. And here at BC, we have a lot of different programs and opportunities that are designed to help foster this integration of the social, intellectual, and spiritual parts of your life. And some of them are exclusively for first-year students. And so those are some of the programs that I'm going to highlight for you next. So the BC first year experience. So as I said, I work in the Office of First Year Experience, and in our office, it's our philosophy that in anything you do, the beginning is really important. And all of these programs you see listed here were created to help ease the transition to BC for first year students. And they all, in one way or another, have the common goal of helping you get to know BC, your classmates, and yourself a little bit better. Orientation, 48 hours, and a collection of mentorship programs that I'm going to highlight briefly. So let's start with orientation, because I know and also imagine there are a lot of questions surrounding that right now. As many of you probably heard, given the circumstances surrounding the pandemic and so much uncertainty that exists right now about when social distancing guidelines will be lifted, we've tailored our orientation program for this summer to allow everyone to stay safe, because that's the most important thing. So our team in first year experience has been working around the clock to develop this new orientation model. And I gotta tell you, we're really excited about it. Orientation 2020 will be offered as a combination of virtual and on-campus programming. And it's gonna be a bunch of experiences that will help you imagine, plan, and prepare for your 4 years on the Heights, all while connecting you with mentors and classmates along the way. So I'd like to kind of break down each month of the program to try to give you a better idea of what's coming next. So we'll start with May. Orientation registration actually opened this past Wednesday, and it's due on the first day of May, May 1st, the same day as deposits are due. When you deposit, the orientation registration form will open to you in the admitted student portal about a day later. And so if you deposit on May 1, we can certainly have some leeway and allow you to submit that form the following day. And when you register for orientation, you will be asked to rank your top 5 preferences for your orientation group meeting time. So all of the meeting time options are on Sundays and Mondays for 4 weeks in June, and all times are listed in Eastern Standard Time. So just be cognizant of that if you live in a different time zone. And by May 22nd, you'll be notified of your orientation group meeting time, as well as more details on the program. June will constitute the first phase of orientation. So during this month, you will meet live on Zoom with your orientation group once a week for 4 weeks in a row at your pre-scheduled time. There will be 12 to 15 fellow classmates in your orientation group and one orientation leader who's a junior or senior student who's been carefully selected and trained to serve as your guide and mentor throughout the summer. And the week before each live meeting that you have with your orientation group, you'll be asked to watch a few videos and check out some content online as well. In addition, during this time, each student will have a Zoom meeting with an academic advisor who is a faculty member in their school or college to learn about the curriculum at BC and to explore options for your fall schedule. You'll be assigned a particular week for advising, and you will sign up for an appointment in the time frame of that week that works for you. And then following the advising appointment and some research that you might do on your own, you'll submit a form to your school or college, your undergraduate school or college, that asks for your course preferences. So let's move on to July now, which we're calling phase 2 of orientation. So during this phase, you will not be meeting live with your orientation group, but your orientation leader will be staying in touch with you frequently to answer questions, and perhaps your group will still kind of connect virtually, and that's our hope at least. And there will also be additional content for you to view online during phase 2. So some videos and some modules for you to complete. But during phase 2, you can do all of that on your own time at your own pace. Finally, during the month of July, so during this phase 2 component, the undergraduate schools and colleges will be registering all incoming students or all incoming first-year students for fall courses based on their submitted preferences. And after your schedules have been created and sent to you, you'll have the opportunity to meet with an advisor to make additional changes if needed. Parents, I also want to make a note here that beginning in July, we will open the virtual parent orientation program as well. We have a lot of great content prepared for you that you can view on your own time, though unlike the student program, your program is certainly not required, but we will have a lot available to you. You'll hear about how you can best support your student through this transition, how you can best support yourself for those of you who might be having a little separation anxiety, and you'll basically learn anything and everything you could possibly want to know about BC. We'll be connecting you to a lot of wonderful administrators and faculty through that process, both in live webinars and in pre-recorded content forms. Okay, finally, in August, that's phase 3 of orientation. So in the days prior to the start of fall classes, students, we will be keeping you very busy. This will be the beginning of your Weeks of Welcome program from BC, and there will be lots of informative sessions and opportunities for fun and socialization with your class. We partner with the Division of Student Affairs on this, and there's everything from like a class photo in your super fan shirts to an academic fair to even a Target night where you get to go with your class and like take over Target and get your last minute needs. It's pretty fun. So during these days, you'll also have time to meet with your academic advisor for the fall semester, your orientation leader, and your orientation group in person. So there'll be time for all of those meetings as well. Parents, we will also have some on-campus programming for you on the evening of move-in day, which is Thursday, August 27th, and the following day, so that Friday, August 28th. And all of that parent programming will wrap up by around 4 p.m. that day. So I know that was a mouthful, but that's our plan right now for orientation this summer. I got to tell you again, we're excited about it. We're excited about what we have in store for you all, and we really do think it's the best of both worlds to have both virtual and on-campus components of the program available to you. So again, happy to take more questions about that towards the end of this presentation. But before that, I just want to highlight a couple other programs. So I've mentioned 48 hours. 48 hours is a weekend experience for first-year students that takes them away from BC's campus for reflection, connection, and perspective. We put students on a bus and we take them down to Cape Cod for the weekend to get some fresh air and fresh perspective as they meet with new people and really get a chance to reflect on what's been going on in their lives at BC. 48 hours is a beloved BC tradition. Over 600 students went on the retreat last year, and we'll have 4 different weekends where we'll be offering the trip this coming year, and registration will open this summer, so you can feel free to secure your spot early. Again, beloved BC tradition. It's been around for decades, truly, and I encourage you not to miss out on it. Finally, I want to quickly highlight some first-year mentorship programs that are run by the Office of First Year Experience and our sister office, the Center for Student Formation. Each of these programs are designed for different populations of students. So one is for our AHANA students, a term used to refer to students of color on BC's campus. So that's the Compass Mentoring Program. One is for first-year women, that's the Ascend program, and one is for first-year men, that's Freshman League. So each of these programs last 1 semester, and Compass takes place in the fall semester, Ascend and Freshman League take place in the spring semester. And these are all very, very popular programs for first-year students. They give you a chance to kind of meet in small groups with about 8 different first-year students and 2 junior or senior mentors. And it's an opportunity to get to know more people, to have good conversation, and to make some meaning of your BC experience on a weekly basis in community with other people. So they're really fantastic programs, and I encourage you to check them out more online, and you'll be hearing more about these programs in 48 hours through the orientation experience. So that is most of what I wanted to tell you today. My contact information is listed here along with our social media information. I highly suggest you follow us. We'll be posting a lot of fun stuff over the next few weeks and months. We've started to post a sneak peek at some of our BC orientation leaders already. And before we transition to questions, I would just like to leave you with one final thought. As you know, I've spent a lot of time at Boston College. As I said, I've worked here for a number of years, and really over the last 2 decades, from my time as an undergraduate to now. And I'm confident that my colleagues in admission have told you that this year's admission process was the most selective in BC's history, which means getting into an institution like BC makes you a very thin slice of a very thin slice of the world's population. And there are a lot of people who would trade places with you in a second. Some of them you know, maybe they're your classmates, right? But some of them you will never meet. And at BC, we believe that your education is for them, for those who are not lucky enough to be in your shoes today, those who will not ever have the opportunity to sit in a college classroom in Chestnut Hill or sit in any college classroom because they have not been afforded the resources or opportunities or mentors that you were to get where you are right now. And at BC, we educate you so you can go set the world aflame and make it a more just and loving place for all those people who do not have the good fortune to be here. And that's what a BC education is all about. And I think if you choose to attend Boston College, you should know that that's what this institution will ask of you, to make the world a better place. And I think that's what makes us a little bit different. So with that, I want to thank you for your time and attention. I offer you my heartfelt congratulations, and I'd be happy to take your questions.
Sure. Thanks, Ali. A lot of these have been addressed as we're going here, so thank you so much. But I just want to get to a few that are a bit more thematic. One question, how often do students connect with their orientation leader and group throughout the academic year?
That's a great question. So in terms of, I think I'll start by explaining a little bit more about that, that opportunity for them to connect once they get on campus. So once students get on campus, they'll move in on that Thursday, as I mentioned. And then at some point on that Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, there'll be a prescribed time where you'll get to meet in person with your orientation group and your orientation leader. All of these students, again, are juniors and seniors, so they are all on campus. And we often find that one of the main motivations for students to apply into the orientation leader role, and it's a pretty selective position, is that they are looking forward to staying in touch and being a mentor figure for their first year students throughout the year. So we in the past have not had a lot of formal ways in which that happens, but that's something we're looking at this year, especially given that, you know, that kind of in-person connection is being postponed until everyone arrives on campus. But these are student leaders who are involved in a lot of different clubs and activities on campus. And again, we find that the vast majority of orientation groups will meet up for dinner in the res halls. The orientation leaders really love the opportunity to kind of go back and visit the freshman areas and just connect with students, because that's really why they applied to do this work. So I hope that answered that question a little bit.
Great, thank you. There's been a number of follow-up questions just about advising and course selection. And one question was, how will they be guided for class selection? Specifically, will they be able to meet with their advisor virtually before selecting classes?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me try to be a little bit more specific about that process. The one caveat I'll put out there is that each of the advising and registration processes that take place are going to differ slightly depending on the school and college to which you're enrolled. So if you're in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, that process is going to be a little bit different than if you are in the Canal School of Nursing. And that's always what happens at BC. Academically, our colleges really tailor their advising processes and the curriculums and the needs of students in those colleges. But yes, one thing that will be a common experience no matter what undergraduate college you are enrolled in is that you will have a live opportunity to connect virtually with an academic advisor. So that may be individually or that may be in a group setting, but you will sign up for an appointment to do that with an academic advisor. And you will probably watch some content before, then have that meeting, and then go kind of do your own research and kind of, search on BC's portal that has kind of course information and schedule listings, which is very similar to how the process will happen every other semester, right? Every semester at BC, when you're a student here, you have to meet with an academic advisor before you are allowed to register for fall classes. So the advising process at BC is very personal. It's very hands-on, and something that has always been true of our orientation process is that we like to start that, from day one. So something that the schools and colleges are very committed to is making sure that we don't lose that personal touch, even though we'll be required to do most of this advising and registration process virtually this summer. So the other thing I would just add about that is that there's always going to be opportunities to make changes to that schedule. So as I mentioned earlier, once you see your schedule, you can have a meeting with your advisor to make some changes. And then when you get on campus, there'll be continued opportunity to do that. BC has what's called a drop add period, which is a window of time. It's around 10 days during the first 10 days of any semester where there's a lot of movement in courses, right? Students are kind of coming in and out of different sections and different courses and making final adjustments to their schedule. And that's a really normal part of the academic experience here at BC. So I think that's important to keep in mind that nothing's really permanent when you get your schedule this summer. There's opportunities to make changes.
Great, thank you. Question from a parent. Do you have recommendations or expectations for long distance parents who would like to stay in touch with their student, parents' weekends, etc.?
Oh, do I have recommendations? That's a great question. Certainly I think visiting the campus for Parents Weekend and even other weekends when there isn't as much to do, where you can just kind of connect with your student and get a sense of their daily life is great. Something you're in a position to do. But I more so, I would say start having conversations now with your student about all of the changes that are coming your way. One of the things I hear from first year students a lot is, my parents think I don't call enough. And I always say to them, well, have you had a conversation with your parent about what their expectations were about how much you might communicate? And they said, no, but I thought I would just call them every week. And I said, well, they might be thinking you'll be calling every day, right? Or maybe vice versa. And I think start to have those conversations about how will we communicate? What are your thoughts about what will be a productive way for us to stay in touch, and what methods will we use to stay in touch? And then how will we know if something about that isn't working? I think that would be, again, I'm a parent of an 8-month-old, not a college student, but I think that would be my advice given my experience working with parents of college students.
Great. Is there a plan in place to replace the lack of social involvement with the loss of in-person orientation during the beginning of the school year?
Yeah, there sure is. And again, we understand that there's a lot of kind of concern and anxiety around that, which I think is so understandable. So not only is the virtual piece of orientation going to provide you a lot of opportunities for real and meaningful and repeated interaction with fellow classmates and your orientation group, but we're also going to have a virtual portal where you're going to have a lot of opportunities to connect with your entire class in different kind of online communities. And we'll tell you more about that. We're still setting up kind of that whole system right now. But once you get to campus, those opportunities will continue in person. We have a lot of programming that will be offered to you in those 4 days before classes. When I say they're going to be jam-packed days, it's not an understatement. Even down to the first few hours when you're on campus, that evening there'll be floor meetings and big dinners where you can connect with classmates, and the schedule is really full. So we have been working with our colleagues in the Division of Student Affairs to really come up with a schedule that provides a maximum amount of opportunities for bonding and for folks to make friends. So, you know, sometimes you'll just be attending kind of social events and be able to kind of mix and mingle with classmates. Other times you'll be in small groups where you'll get to have more meaningful conversation and get to know a whole new set of students. So we are cognizant that this is a concern this year more than ever, and we are making adjustments to our on-campus programming to make sure to accommodate for that. And I think the other thing I would add, Pete, is just that, you know, those orientation and welcome week are essential to kind of meeting people and starting to kind of get your feet on the ground here socially, but it's not where it ends, right? One of the things that is always so tough when I talk to first year students, you know, and they say like, well, I've met a few people, so I think I'm good now. I think I have friends. And I always say that's such a shame, right? Like my advice to you surely would never feel like you've kind of checked the box when it comes to making friends here at BC. You know, there's so many ways to do that. The residence halls here at BC are very much set up to allow for like meaningful social interaction and to allow people to get to know each other. Classes at BC are designed to do that as well. We have a lot of classes here, especially options for first year students that reflection and kind of bringing your whole self and the personal sides of yourself to the academic conversation is a part of the fabric of these classes. And so I think there are a lot of courses at BC that allow students to make more meaningful friendships within the classroom setting. So I would just add that as well.
Yeah, great example. And both of my sons at Boston College, their freshman year, took Courage to Know. And it was one of the most transformative experiences that they had academically.
Yeah.
So there was a question about commuters. Is it difficult for commuters to fit in since they comprise only a small percentage of all students?
You know, that's a great question, and I appreciate you asking that question. You know, BC is a residential college, but not the epicenter of student life does not happen in the residence halls. So I would like to say no. You know, I talked about a little bit how classes are an opportunity for folks to get to know each other and to forge connections, but also how you spend your time, right, outside of classes. So getting involved in clubs and organizations, you know, pursuing formative experiences like retreats like 48 Hours that I mentioned and mentorship programs, and really being proactive about putting yourself in spaces where you'll be able to have conversation with other people is really important. So I think as long as commuter students, you know, don't hold back and stay immersed and engaged in our campus community and in the broadest sense, like they would have, in my experience working with them, they have no trouble at all.
Just do a few more. Question came up about roommate selection and how often are roommates selected during the orientation process among their groups?
That's a great question. So I'm probably not the single authority to speak on this matter, but I can tell you what I've observed through the years. And that is that over the past few years in particular, you know, with the advent of technology, there's a big kind of push and desire for students to kind of find a roommate online before they come to school. And I get that, right? It takes a big piece of the uncertainty out of the equation. And that's something some students do, but plenty of students don't do that as well. And I gotta tell you, most of the students who don't do that end up really having a great year with their roommate. Plenty of the students who select a roommate in advance also end up having a great year. But sometimes what happens is the expectations can be so high, right? You've created a kind of an image of what it's going to be like to live with this person, and really sometimes created an image of what this other person is through social media, that sometimes the reality of your lived experience can be a little bit different. So if you're wondering, like, do I need to find a roommate before I actually get here, or can I just kind of go random into the room selection process, I would just urge you not to feel a pressure to find a roommate. You don't have to. Not everyone does. If you want to, or you already have that's great too. But either way, it's good. I would say that, not a ton of that used to happen at the in-person orientation sessions over the summer. I think more of that tended to happen online anyway. So I don't expect anything about those patterns or those processes that students engaged in to be very different this year.
I guess the last question that I'll ask Ali is we've had some questions about first-year convocation and maybe a little bit details about that.
Yeah, so I'd love to speak about that. Yeah, so first year academic convocation is an event that happens in early September every year, and it's really an event that's designed to welcome incoming students into the academic community of Boston College. It's a really wonderful tradition at Boston College. Actually, if you look at the picture I have up here, that's a photo of Linden Lane. So you see Gasson Hall here, which is one of the most iconic buildings right in the center of campus. And you see our Golden Eagle statue right in front. And Linden Lane is kind of a long little lane, little road in campus. And it's actually the road that on the morning of commencement, all of the seniors line up in their caps and gowns. It makes me a little emotional to talk about even this year because I know they won't get to do that in May at least. But what we've tried to do with Convocation is create kind of a bookend experience, right? So that the first year students, when they come and when they celebrate Convocation in early September, they'll do the same thing. So they'll line up on Linden Lane by Residence Hall this time. And they will receive a charge from the administration of Boston College and the faculty of Boston College asking them to set the world aflame. And then they'll process down to Conti Forum, where the author of this year's Convocation book will address them, the entire class at once. So we have not yet released the Convocation book or author for this year, but first year students will be the first to know when we do that. So
great. Thanks, Ali. Dave, I'll send it back to you.
Great. Thanks, Pete. In closing, I just want to thank Ali Bane Hammond for joining us and sharing that information about the first year experience. Certainly, I know we couldn't get to every question that was submitted, but if you do have specific questions regarding first year experience, Ali again has provided the first year experience email address, which you can reach out to her and her team through. Connect through Instagram and Facebook at the handles that you see in front of you, and really engage with the FYE office. There's so much information there for you to learn about. Also, one of the last questions was about roommate selection and kind of that residential life piece. I just want to note that 2 weeks ago, we held a really great webinar on residential life and dining services. They were paired together in a webinar. And I invite you to get back into your admitted student portal. You can find that within your playlist and rewatch that. For parents who just want to look at it casually, just go on the Boston College YouTube page, and you can find that webinar and everything else that we've done as well. So dig back into it and watch that webinar. There's some really great information about roommate selection, housing surveys, all of those different things. I want to thank Pete Caruso. Pete, thanks for moderating our Q&A. And of course, I want to thank all of the students and families that have tuned in to this webinar as well. I'm sure it feels like you've been engaging with this college conversation for quite a long time, and you probably have. But just think, your college experience has yet to begin. And this I know, there are some incredible experiences in store for you. And while we hope your next home is going to be Boston College, I want you to use a combination of your heart and your mind and choose the school where you believe you're going to thrive in every way. And I invite you over the course of the next few weeks to reach out to your admission counselor and continue to work through some of those questions that you may still have. Use the resources within your portal as well. And also, if you are still waiting for a financial aid package, I urge you to reach out to the Office of Financial Aid this week. You can call them, you can email them, but I urge you to do it this week so we can make sure that they're assisting you and getting you the financial aid information that you need to finalize your decision. Most importantly, we wish you and we wish your family safety and good health during these difficult times. Again, congratulations on your admission to Boston College. Thank you for joining us today, and be well. Take care. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.